Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to our continuing coverage of Bat Friday. We've created our own holiday solely around Batman. And here to talk about the art of the bat. Over the next hour, we're going to be sitting down with two of the top names in DC art. And here to introduce and chat with these people is one of my all-time favorite people. You know her from obviously Collider Heroes, the DC, what is it, the DC show?
DC Daily.
DC Daily, man. And of course, your own YouTube presence and your massive Twitch presence. Ladies and gentlemen, Amy Dallen.
I'm so excited to be here. Bat Friday is such a good idea. You all have such amazing things lined up today. I'm really psyched to be a part of it. And I cannot wait to learn from these two folks that you're about to introduce.
Great. Well, I'm going to go ahead and step aside and let you talk some serious art with some serious artists, guys. We'll see you a little bit later on in Bat Friday.
All right, I am very excited. We are going to be about to talk to two fabulous artists, and you get to ask them your questions. That'll be in the second half of the panel. But first, the very talented, the very terrifying, the co-author of Batman 3 Jokers. Please welcome Jason Fabok.
Hey, hi. How's it going?
And from Brightest Day to the Dark Knight, please welcome David Finch.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'm so thrilled you both could join us today. First of all, how is your Bat Friday going?
Dave, you want to go first?
I stayed up too late last night, and my wife makes me wake up with the dog every morning. So I was up bright and early. We walked the dog. I came back and I fell asleep for, till 1. So that's my day. But I got work done after that. So
a good nap day is a good foundation.
Day. And we're in Canada here, so it's not really a holiday. Is it actually Thanksgiving today?
It was yesterday. For here in America. Okay. But I am curious, have we infected the rest of the world with sort of shopping mania on this day? Is that a thing in other places, or is that an American thing?
Would you know that, Jake?
Does Black Friday mean anything to y'all?
Oh yeah, it's become more popular.
Is it? Okay, yeah. I don't shop.
Yeah. Like my wife and I, we pretty much have had everything bought for the kids for the last month and a half. So today we just kind of cleaned up on a couple extra little online deals, and then that was about it. So yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that you both could join us as we take that dubious holiday of Dennis Gabriel is right. Woo! Two amazing Batman artists. As we take the dubious holiday of Black Friday and convert it into the much comic book preferred Bat Friday. I'm so glad you both could join us. And let's start with a nice, easy one. What's so great about Batman? Dave, I'm going to make you go first.
Okay. Well, I have so many favorite Batman artists that are all really... Okay, they're all similar in the sense that they're all very dark, which is my favorite. I love darker kind of artists. But Kelly Jones had a really creepy kind of horror Batman with the cape, and I loved that look. And I tried to do that as much as I could in my own Batman, but it's tough. He's, some artists just have their own genius. It's hard to emulate. I love Jim Lee's much more superheroic, bigger than life, and they're really kind of different characters, but Batman is the kind of character that can kind of withstand that. He's got the greatest villains in the world. He's got the greatest city in the world, and it's really interpretable. And I've seen, what was the comic? It was Batman 1963. I'm going to say it wrong, but it's a classic, kind of based on the show.
The 66 comics?
That's right. Yes.
Yes.
And it's still Batman. It's still cool. So yeah. Bruce Timm.
So accommodating all of these different iconic versions. What about you, Jason?
I always loved Batman because he was the opposite of what I am in life. Like I would probably relate more to Superman and the way that he thinks, the way that he acts. Whereas Batman was my escapist kind of fantasy to be that big, tough, kind of masculine, macho kind of dude who's not afraid to go out at night and just beat up criminals. He had the cool costume. One of my first introductions to Batman was the Michael Keaton Batman. And so like that was a very specific vision of Batman where, you know, he just walked it. Like I didn't realize when he was a kid that he couldn't actually move his neck, you know, because of the way. So I just thought Batman was so tough that he would just move like his whole shoulder, you know, like he was just always flexing. And
he doesn't need peripheral vision.
Yeah, he
He's
doesn't need it,
tough.
like, because he knew where everybody was at all times, right? So I don't know, like he's always been my favorite character, my favorite superhero. I've always been most attracted to him as a character. And he's the character I also find the most natural to draw. Like I struggle with Superman. Like Dave, I don't know if you have this. Like I cannot get Superman the way I want him in my mind. Like I can't put it down on paper because you can't use the same kind of shadows and stuff as you can with Batman.
You can. It just doesn't look right. I just do it that way. I can't help it.
I do it too, but I don't know. Like I always just struggled with Superman. Batman always just comes really natural to me, and so, and like what Dave said, he's got the best villains. You can play with the city, you can play with the visuals, the shadows, and all that stuff, and just makes for a good, fun time drawing comics.
Well, I have to ask this follow-up, Dave. What is the secret to Superman?
Oh, so I don't know. I will say, if I draw Superman, and I've done it a few times, it reminds me. I took over Avengers, and this is a long time ago, in 2005.
Wonderful.
Avengers, it was a very light kind of a comic. It always had been, and I can't draw that way, so I just did it the way that I did it, and it ended up being a different thing. And I know a lot of fans were upset at the time, but in the end, I think it worked. And my Superman, it's a darker character. It's all I can do. So
the secret to Superman is putting him under a tree that casts a lot of shadows.
That's right. Yeah. Or, direct sunlight. That's a lot of shadow you get from good hard sunlight.
You do. Yeah.
So
I want to ask, because folks watching this will probably be aware of both of you as excellent artists with a lot to contribute, but they might not be aware that much like the Bat we are discussing, there is a bit of a mentorship history here. Could you talk a little bit, Jay, about getting into comics and what someone else on this call might have to do with that?
Well, I owe my entire career to Dave and Meredith Finch. We owe a lot to them. And when I was, I don't know, I don't even know how old I was at the time. Maybe I was 24. This was back in 2010. So I had sent my portfolio to Dave and asked him if he could give me a couple pointers, seeing that we lived close. We live about half an hour, 40 minutes away, depending on the drive. And so I didn't expect to really get a response back, but he said, "Hey, why don't you come by, bring your portfolio, and I'll give you a couple pointers." And so I went over to his house, and that began a 6-month kind of boot camp. I call it like a comic book boot camp, because I would go over every couple days. Dave would give me a kind of an assignment. We're going to draw heads, we're going to draw hands, we're going to draw feet. Much like what Dave's been doing on his YouTube channel. A lot of that stuff that he's been doing on the YouTube channel was stuff that I was learning from him directly. And so then I would go home and I would work so hard. I would try to, if he told me to draw 1 page of heads, I'd come back with 2 or 3. Draw a city, I would come back with 2 or 3 pages of city, because I really wanted to prove to him that I wanted it. I really wanted this opportunity. And so that went on for, like I said, about 6 months. And then at the time you had just come over to DC and you were doing a lot of covers. And so there wasn't much in the way of doing pencil assists and stuff. And so you said, "Hey, let's just send in your portfolio. Let's do a little portfolio piece, 7-page portfolio of a Batman story." And then
I said 3 pages. You did 7.
Oh, well, there you go. So anyway, so we but he sent in that portfolio to DC, and they offered me a job. And then from there, it was kind of, here and there, it was a little bit of spotty work. I wasn't getting tons of work, but then again, Dave came through and asked me if I wanted to help him out on the Batman The Dark Knight series. And so I came in and I did that. And then that kind of helped springboard me into the career I have right now. And so, I'm very thankful to Dave for that. And even to this day, sometimes I still email him and say like, I can't get this head or I can't get this pose. Can you help me out here? And I went over to his place about a month and a half ago asking him, do you have any reference or some tips on drawing nature and trees and forests and all this kind of stuff? And so he gave me some pointers and some books to check out. So yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
Well, sorry.
What does your side of the story sound like?
Well, yeah, I feel like I helped, but also 6 months is ridiculously short. He was already very far along, and it was kind of a pleasure to help because I could see that everything was there, and there were things that he needed to work on, and and I've learned that you never know. I can try and help, and I can do my very best, but if somebody won't respond positively, I can't help. And he did. I mean, more than I could have possibly expected. Obviously, I was getting twice the work. And the great thing was, he'd come back, and not only he would have done twice as much as what I asked, but in the first part, I could see where he's struggling, and then I could see where he's figuring it out himself. And then, even moving beyond what I was showing him, it happened really fast. And as far as I'm getting work at DC, I have to say it was not hard. They were really impressed with his work right away. And working in comics, it's a big commitment. It's a lot of responsibility, and you have to always be learning, and it's very competitive. In the fact that Jay's managed to have such a huge career. I mean, 3 Jokers, it's done okay from what I'm hearing. So I've heard a couple of things about that.
Yeah.
I feel like, you're coming over asking about trees, and meanwhile you're kicking my butt.
I don't know about that, but I appreciate that.
And what you're seeing right now is 3 absolutely gorgeous covers from Batman 3 Jokers. Jay, can you talk a little bit about that project, what it's been like to see it finally reach the audience, how you feel about it all being out there in the world and now in a beautiful collection?
Yeah, that it's really been something exciting to see it all come out, and the fan response, and the hardcover just came out. I think it was probably the fastest turnaround of a hardcover ever for DC. The third issue came out in October, and then the hardcover's out in November. So it was very, very quick turnaround. But it was a lot of years of preparation, and it was a good 2.5 years of work with Jeff Johns. Him and I, we had this story that we wanted to tell, and we were really confident in the story that we had, and especially with the ending that we had. We were really excited to tell that tale, and we knew that we had something that was going to feel both classic and modern at the same time, and we had the time. And that was another thing that was really attractive about the project, is that I had time, and I could put my all into the work, and I really, it was really a passion project for me, and I spent a lot of time drawing panels, redrawing panels, redrawing pages, covers. I mean, those covers there are the final versions. I probably did like 2 or 3 of each of those prior to that I just didn't like, and ended up, just going, no.
And we may have Jay coming in and out as we go.
He's still frozen. There he is.
We'll take these trade-offs for the ability to do panels like this with people all over the world.
Oh, it's too bad. I was enjoying the.
Am I back?
You're back.
You're back.
Right. Sorry, I'm in my basement where we don't have a wired connection. I only have a Wi-Fi. What do you call it? Wireless Wi-Fi. So it might freeze up. So,
well, we're glad you can be here with us. You were talking about different versions and working towards the final product.
Yeah, like those covers are the last version of probably like 3 or 4 takes on those covers, and so, I don't know. It was a lot of fun and a lot of hard work, a lot of battles behind the scenes to get things out the way we wanted them to get out and when we wanted them to get out. But it seemed everything worked out in the end, and that was something that Jeff and I kept saying to each other, there was a lot of setbacks and there were a lot of things that were kind of happening behind the scenes. And we kept saying to each other, you know, it'll come out when it's meant to come out. It'll happen when it's meant to happen. All things happen for a reason. There's reasons why there's delays on these things. But when it came out big and it sold very well. And I think it helped out a lot of comic shops right at the right time. When businesses were kind of coming back in, it helped out a lot of like the local comic shops here in Windsor. They told me that they were selling out. They sold out of every copy. Each one had ordered like 300 or 400 copies of the book, so they were selling out of everything. So people were hungry for it, and I felt it was something that the comic book stores really needed. It was a big boost for them, and so I'm very proud of the book and happy with the work that we did, and I'm glad that people are getting a chance to read it, and hopefully more people will get to read it over a Christmas holiday with the book on sale now and hardcover. So yeah.
I think that very fast timing you talked about for the hardcover should pay off for the gift givers and receivers of the comic book world right around now.
The kind of book that we'll be doing that for years. You know, some books just have enough of an impact that they last for, years and years. And I think that's going to be one. I felt that way when you first mentioned it, Jason. You said, you're going to do this book with Jeff Johns. You kind of gave me a...
David, we've lost your sound just for a moment there. You said that you felt that way right at the start, and then we just lost you for a second.
Oh, I'm cutting out too. I said, I think it's a book that, people will be buying, and it's going to be available in bookstores nonstop for years. So,
have you ever been surprised, David, by a work having a very long tail, or that you thought maybe had slipped under the radar, but people still bring up to you?
Yeah.
Or have you always known for a fact, like, this is the one that people will ask about forever?
I'd never know. Actually, there's really no way of knowing. I think Avengers. I felt like I was pretty confident that would do well, and then they came out with the movies, and I thought, okay, well, that one should be around for a little while. I still see a lot of Moon Knight, which is a surprise, and it's great. I'm a huge Moon Knight fan. I loved working on that book. I figured no one would buy it and no one would remember it, so seeing that is great. And Batman. Great thing about doing Batman is not only is it so much fun to draw, but it has such a big audience and a dedicated audience. So when you draw Batman, it's something that people will remember for a while.
Now, Jay had mentioned that he might have been introduced with Batman with Michael Keaton. David, do you remember your first memories of Batman?
Wow.
When did you meet the Bat?
I don't remember a time not being aware of Batman, so it's a little tough to say. So I kind of want to say maybe the cartoon from the 60s, but I don't know if that's actually right, and I'm just saying that, really. I just don't remember not being aware of Batman.
Very cool. When did you know comic books were going to be the thing for you?
Wow. So I'm a high school dropout, and my parents forced me to go back a few times, and it didn't work. I did not want to go back to school. I wanted to find something that I could do with no education and that I enjoyed. And that seemed like an impossible task. And I was really looking at having to go back to school in some kind of form or other. And my sister read comics, and I finally gave one a chance. I was 20, so they were around the house. I just never tried them.
Wait, I want to hear that story. She was into comics and trying to get you to. I've given my brother so many comics, it did work eventually. But
she was not trying to get me into comics. She wanted me away from her stuff. So yeah, I had to steal her comics to read them. And when I started, she was not happy. So yeah, she read Excalibur. It's Alan Davis. Mm-hmm. I'm still a huge fan. She had the John Byrne X-Men stuff and actually Mark Silvestri's X-Men run. And that actually, Mark Silvestri is my teacher. And my favorite artist for years. He was my boss for 7 years. And so, yeah, that's the stuff that got me into it. And it was a bit of a started. I thought, why not? I had nothing to lose. And the minute I started, it just felt right. And I had a long way to go, longer than I knew, but it felt right. So I just kept going.
At what point did you know actually, I'm going to save that one till we maybe get Jay back, because I'm very curious whether you already knew that you might like to pass on those skills by the time you were working with him, but I'd rather put him on the spot when we get him back. I am curious for you, like, what makes the medium of comics, not just to work in, but to consume, special compared to other sorts of storytelling?
It's not like books in the sense that with books you get a lot more exposition, whereas with comics it's more like a movie, except that because you only have still images, so much of the work is done by the reader and you have to fill that in. And the better an artist is at hitting those key moments, the easier it is for a reader to be able to fill those gaps, which is why great storytellers are so popular, because people can really just lose themselves in a story. And that's what I love about reading the best comics out there.
Who are some of the greats that people should look to? We talked about Kelly Jones, obviously, but who inspires you as an artist?
Right now, my biggest inspirations, I would say, are Jorge Jimenez, who is drawing Batman right now, and I think is incredible. Sean Murphy, also drawing Batman. You know what? I'm not saying because they're drawing Batman, but Sean Gordon Murphy is an absolute genius, and his stuff is very inspiring to me. Jay, his work, obviously, I'm a massive fan of. I can't believe how great it is. Greg Capullo. I'm naming all Batman artists right now. This is terrible. But, yeah, those are a lot of the artists that I'm really looking at right now. As far as artists that really got me into wanting to draw, it was Mark Silvestri, all the Image guys, Jim Lee, another Batman artist. Todd McFarlane. He did draw Batman. There was a little bit. Simon Bisley, who is like a really muscular, crazy, did a lot of painting. I still, every once in a while, I try and paint. I love doing it. I'm terrible at it. So one day I'll retire and I'll just paint like Simon Bisley if I can.
In terms of expanding the kind of things you took on, at what point did you think you might want to write as well as draw?
You know what? I love to read. So I foolishly thought that would mean that I would love to write.
What did you learn?
Writing is a really, really hard job, I found. And I've written a few things, and then, you do the job and you realize how terrible it is, and then you forget, and then you do it again. Writing Batman was the last for me. I got a lot of help actually from Meredith, because the wheels really came off. I was writing the book and drawing it. The book to draw was taking me more time than I already had, and just that mental shift. And when I'm drawing, I watch TV, I watch, movies, I listen to music, whatever. When you're writing, you really need it quiet and to just concentrate. And that is so mentally taxing for me. So I don't think it's something I would do again. I have a huge amount of respect for writers, that, especially after a few experiences trying it, but yeah, I prefer to do the artwork and let the writers do the writing.
That's fascinating, because I've heard a lot of writers talk about how intimidating what you all do is, because you're doing, 75 out of 80 of the jobs of filmmaking to go with the other 5. And I haven't heard many artists sort of say like, well, that was surprisingly challenging. But where do you feel, what are your favorite parts of those many hats that you wear as an artist? Do you love the action, the emotion, the environments, or all of it?
My favorite really is, I love the action, I really do, but my favorite is the drama. And so it's the shot right before the big action. It's the shot when somebody turns around and there's the huge villain. It's a double page spread and they realize that they're in trouble. And it's that, impending doom. That's always my favorite kind of shot to do.
Impending doom is a very specific mood.
It's a good name for a comic, Impending Doom.
Absolutely. And on the next page, doom.
There you go.
I am very curious, how have you felt, speaking of like Three Jokers, a long sort of gestating project, how have you felt about watching a certain bat-cat relationship come into being and evolve, and you're going to be contributing at least one cover to the upcoming Batman Catwoman, right?
Yes. Yeah. One, as far as I know. One. But yeah, it's been amazing to see. I did artwork for the book. Actually, I drew Batman proposing to Catwoman.
Yes,
which
when
was
you
a
said
surprise.
drama,
I got the script and I started drawing it, and I was actually a decent ways into it before. I always read the entire script before I start. I just feel like it's a better way to approach it, so you actually have an idea of where the writer's trying to go instead of just page by page boxing yourself into a corner. So yeah, I read the whole thing. Did not cross my mind. I'm like, oh, okay. And then he proposed. I don't know what I was thinking, and yeah, halfway through, I realized, wait a minute, did he just propose to her? So, and then watching everything fall apart and seeing how things have developed, it's been very interesting.
do you feel a personal stake in those kids working it out?
Of course, this is a great thing about the best fiction. You put yourself in the characters and you want to see them win. I remember I used to read Charlie Brown when I was a kid, the comic strip, and I would get so bad at Lucy because she would pull the ball away from Charlie Brown and be like, no, and I wanted to go in there and rescue him, So yeah, of course, I'd love to see them work it out and live happily ever after. I don't know that it's going to happen. Batman cannot live happily ever after. It's just not in the cards.
Batman and Charlie Brown may have more in common than I've ever considered before.
When you look at it that way.
I am curious so if you get, for instance, an assignment like, oh, guess what? Batman's going to propose. People are probably going to remember this one. What goes through your mind as you approach, all right, how do I want this page to come out?
I think I still approach it the same way, really. In the script, it had the actual proposal page was a splash page, which, so the obvious choice. And so I wanted to make sure that I did a sidelong shot. I wanted to see both of them and both of them entirely. I didn't want to have anybody's back. And I wanted it to be something that, I think the most iconic.
Give us more. I'm so
Did we
sorry.
have Jay for a second?
We did have him for a moment.
I'm here.
There he is.
I'll make you start at the beginning again because it's very fun to hear about. Jay, I am making Dave tell us all about the proposal and how he approached that glorious splash page, which immediately memorable to so many of us of Batman Popping the Question. Can you hear us all right? Excellent.
Yes, I can hear you. Go on, Dave. Sorry.
Oh, good. All I was saying is, for the most part, when I'm sitting down to draw a page, I need to get a page done in that day. I'm not doing monthly comics right now, which is a bit of a relief. It gives me a little bit more time to kind of think about it. But drawing a monthly comic, I'm really thinking, okay, today, but I drew it as a splash page. It was a splash page in the script, and I just wanted to make sure to get all of the action in as much as I possibly could. So it was a sidelong shot where you really see both of them as entirely as possible. So you didn't see somebody from behind, and I didn't want to draw it from above or below. I just wanted it to be as clear as possible. It wasn't an action shot, so it didn't need drama. I think I was thinking, and then it's a bit of a lot of times when I'm drawing those kinds of pages, I am way too lazy to really lay things out. I don't know how, Jay, if you really lay things out heavily on pages that much. I am such a lazy artist. I just go right into it, and it is a crapshoot. Sometimes it'll really work, and sometimes I will fall on my face, and I don't have time to fix it. So moving on,
What have you ever considered sharing some of the sort of, if you ever have to abandon one part way through, the sort of like, here's how it didn't work out kind of images?
Actually, I think that'd be I've got a drawer full. So, it
Blooper
would not be so
reels.
bad.
No.
Yeah. Even though I usually don't have time to do, especially there. Yeah, I've got a lot. That actually is a great idea to bring some of that stuff out and say, yeah, here's the finished page. Here is the disaster that it almost was, and if the deadline was a little bit tighter, this is what you would have saw.
So Jay, while you were gone, I would say, asking, I'm just curious, when Dave, you had started working, developed the 6-month boot camp for Jay, did you already know that you might be interested in sort of passing on your skills, or is that something you discovered at that point? And how did that lead into your extremely cool YouTube channel full of tutorials and live draws?
Okay, well, I knew that I liked teaching. When I was starting for 7 years, I worked at Top Cow Productions. Came in as a young artist, the older artist there. Brandon Peterson was there. Mark Silvestri, obviously. Billy Tan was there. And I'd learned so much from them. And I've enjoyed trying to teach some of the younger artists there. And so I got a taste of it then. And then I've taught a few other artists also. Johnny Desjardins, who's done a lot of stuff for Dynamite and a bunch of other companies, and he's doing great. And yeah, with Jay, I could see that you can see when somebody just has like a spark in their work, and that's what made me want to help. But I still didn't expect Jay to, be as successful as he is. I don't know if I would have reconsidered, because I don't know what I was thinking.
I'll say this about Dave. Like, Dave is an excellent teacher, and the reason why Dave is such a good teacher is because he's honest. He's brutally honest. I can't do that. When somebody shows me their portfolio, like, I can't bring myself to like really just just really critique it, and Dave can do that. He's good. But the thing about Dave is he can critique it, but he also knows how to fix it. And that's a different, like, I can look at something, I can go, yeah, this looks off, but not, sometimes it's like I don't really know 100% how to explain it to the person to how to fix it, whereas Dave can look at it, and even the slightest thing he can look at and go, you know what, this is off, this is wrong, but this is how you go about fixing it. Change this shape, or change the lighting is inconsistent here. And so he's really good at that, and that's why he's a great teacher, is because he has that honesty of just one thing like you have to kind of learn in this industry is getting a thick skin, because you're getting editors, not some editors I found early in my career, they critiqued me heavily, and that was great because it helped me to kind of learn and get better. Now they don't say too much about it. Some editors will, but you got to have a thick skin, even just from fans online who like to nitpick every little thing about your work if you drew something wrong, or but having a thick skin is something good, and Dave kind of taught me that too, by critiquing. He taught me how to take a critique and not allow it to be personal, but instead see where I was going wrong, and then showed me how to fix it. And that's a sign of a great teacher, and that's something that not everybody has, that ability and that skill. Like I said, I find I don't have that skill. Not like that. So all you young artists out there, like you need to follow Dave on YouTube, because the videos that he's putting out, like I mentioned this before, those are the things, the same thing that I did. I have my box of stuff that I did through Dave's boot camp. I still have that box of art here, and it's all the same stuff that he's posting online. The only thing that you're not maybe getting is the one-on-one that I got, which was really good, because he was able to fix the problems with my artwork right away. And so that was really good and helped speed up the process. But he's got a wealth of incredible tutorials and stuff online, and follow those, go through them, and watch the videos and stop them and try to draw the things that Dave's doing, and do it over and over and over again. Fill up pages and pages of heads and feet and legs and all the things that he's showing. It's I'm sure Dave probably would think about it like this way too, but like, you're trying to build a foundation when you're drawing. So it's like building a house. You got to lay down a strong foundation to then build the walls and put the paint on and all those other things and the decorations. And in order to do that with art, you have to build that strong foundation and then put on the fancier stuff, the detail, the rendering, the shadow, and all that kind of stuff. So he's giving a lot of people a great wealth of his knowledge of art is being put on YouTube and doing his live streams. Like I tune into Dave's live streams. I sneak in there whenever he's doing them. Yeah, I will. No, well, I feel weird about doing that. But I'll come and spy on you and see what you and Meredith are talking about. And so yeah, and sometimes I'll watch them the next day too, like when I'm working or something. I'll just put them on, and I still learn a lot from watching Dave draw.
Well, Jay, thank you. It's very nice of you to say.
And certainly none of us can argue with the results because you are creating incredible work. And I believe that brings us to the portion where we are opening the floor for questions. I already saw a great one come in from Dennis. There we go. For Jason, apparently Jeff Johns recently confirmed a Three Jokers sequel in the works. What can you say about the project without giving it away?
Well, I could say that we've had a story kind of figured out for a while. But we haven't actually officially started on anything. I'm actually working on something totally different right now that is a non-DC project, but I can't say anything about that. So that little thing, I'm gonna be kind of doing both books at the same time, but we haven't actually started this whole Three Jokers sequel thing. We know what we have a story we would like to tell, but it just everything kind of has to line up and work out. But there's actually like Jeff and I actually have like many different stories that we would like to tell. Like we have like a whole range of stories that could come out of the ending of Three Jokers. Are we ever going to tell them? I don't know. To be totally honest with you, I don't know. So we'll see. We kind of, it's like the one thing I've really been struggling with is I feel like Three Jokers was my final sort of Batman project. Like I feel like I've done that. I've worked on DC stuff the last 8-9 years of my life. And I feel like this is a perfect time for a change and to try and to take a chance and take some chances in my career and try something different and do some different things with Jeff. And so I don't know. It's you want to have the passion for the project that you're working on, and the one that I'm drawing, like I've been drawing like the last like week or so, I'm just so fired up about. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I think we'll see how the sales go with the hardcover, and maybe that'll motivate us to jump.
That'll
back
light
in.
a certain kind of fire.
Yeah.
I have a question from Artsy Designs for Dave. How did you come up with the concept for the Dark Knight's Death Metal 5 cover that you did?
Hi, Artsy. Good to see you here. Actually, I've seen a bunch of people from the stream that we do on Monday. So thank you guys all for showing up. Kenny Wang's here. One Mighty R. So yeah, Art Jedi's here.
Finch block. Am I getting that right?
Yeah. I need a shirt. I knew that I wanted Batman on the motorcycle. The minute that I saw Greg Capullo's design with the motorcycle, I thought, okay, it's got to be out of, I couldn't not have that. And then I just went with a triangular composition. It's very Frazetta inspired. Most of my covers, I would say, are pretty Frazetta inspired. It's basically, you want the peak up and around the head level, and then everything comes in a triangle from that. It's a simple composition, but it always works. And that's kind of what I was thinking. But I really wanted to focus on the bike. So I planned that first, and then everything else around it. Generally, when I draw a cover, I always have one thing that I really like, and then everything else has to fit around it if I can.
So you work outwards from that focal point.
Yes. Yeah, and then what ends up happening is I'll draw my box in first, and then I'll have to erase the box and make it bigger, and
That's when you talked about where you're like, I don't want a thumbnail list. Let's just go.
Right. Yeah.
Kenny Wang asks, just a question for Jason. How do you make your art unique? You were Dave's student, but your styles are very different.
Well, this is okay. So here's a story, and this goes back to when I was learning with Dave. He had taught me very much how to draw in his style like him. And in my mind, it's still like that's kind of how like it makes the most sense to draw, like the way that Dave breaks down his shapes and the way his anatomy. Like he has a very strong sense of shape, and so like to me in my mind, it makes the most sense still to this day to draw in the way that Dave taught me how to draw. And I remember saying to him one day something like, everybody's just gonna say that I'm a David Finch clone. And Dave said, that's good. He says, you'll never go a day without work, and it's true. It's true, because Dave has a style that sells comic books. And he told me another thing. He said, next time you go to a Comic-Con, go and look at who has the longest lines at the Comic-Con. It's guys like Jim Lee, it's Mark Silvestri, it's Todd McFarlane. And he said, take little bits and pieces of those guys, those are the of their art styles, and slowly bring them into your work. And he told me something like, back when he was working with Mark Silvestri, he had that. He was kind of because he was taught by Mark Silvestri, he had his style, and it took him a good 5 years to morph. And so he said the same thing. It's going to take you 5-6 years of drawing and bringing in other influences into your art, and your art will slowly sort of change. And that's something that I started to do. At first, it was just you had to get the projects done, so you relied on your base instincts of how Dave taught me how to draw. So I went back to those fundamentals. And then after a while, I started, you start wanting to break out and do things a little different. So I would try little different things, looking at different artists. And
what are some of those artists and influences you brought in?
I started looking at a lot of Ivan Reyes, who was doing Justice League and stuff at the time. I like a lot of those. Something I can't do. A lot of the Brazilian artists have this very natural and organic style of, their muscles. And I tried to start bringing some of that in, especially when I was doing Justice League. And Gary Frank is another one I really enjoy, his style and his rendering. And then with Three Jokers, there was a lot of Brian Boland I was bringing in. I was really paying attention to Brian Boland's line work. And now with the stuff I'm doing right now, I'm going right back to Travis Charest, who Dave had lent me these Travis Charest Space Girl comic that he does. It's a little web comic, and you can find it on his website. And so I've been going back to that and really looking at how he's using his lines, and so I'm trying to bring a little bit of that into my current project that I'm doing, because I feel like it fits. And so it's just something that I think over time you start to bring in different influences and different artists. And I think maybe Dave could talk a bit about this too, but I even find that depending on the project, I'll kind of go one way or I'll go a different way. Like maybe if I was doing maybe more of a horror comic, maybe I would look at more like Mike Mignola and kind of go in that direction, maybe a little bit more with the shadows and how he does it. But whereas if I'm doing Superman, maybe I'll go and I'll look at, I don't know, I can't think of Superman stuff right now, like a different artist, but maybe I would look at a different artist.
Gary Frank?
Kurt Swan.
Yeah, I was going to say like
on Superman.
Yeah, Gary Frank. There's a lot of Gary Frank, awesome Superman stuff. So even Jim Lee did some great Superman stuff. So you kind of look towards those different influences and try to bring them in. I don't know, Dave, if you want to talk about that a little bit too.
Yeah, I think it's true. I have to admit, I never think of it in terms of I'm gonna angle in a particular direction and look at artists in order to do that. But I always think what artists really, and I've got a huge collection of books. You can see the corner of my bookshelf. I've got stacks, and different artists do different things well, and I've really tried to pick up from that as much as I can. So if I'm doing something that's more like Justice League or Avengers, I'm looking at a lot of Carlos Pacheco, especially. I'm a huge fan. He's got the greatest claw hands and just great multi-figure compositions. And then Kelly Jones or Mike Mignola or it's a long list. Tim Sale for Batman, that kind of stuff. And just looking at that work, it starts to angle the work in a direction. So I think the projects you take actually influence who you are as an artist too,
Well, like when I was doing the Swamp Thing winter special, I was looking at a lot of Bernie Wrightson, but I was also going back and looking at a lot of Stefan Bissett. And I really liked that Alan. I was trying to bring in a little of that Alan Moore-esque looking Swamp Thing, and instead of more of the Bernie Swamp Thing. But like I was really just kind of used those. I use it as an excuse to kind of just try something a little bit different and try to see if maybe by bringing in something that artist does stylistically, maybe it will actually change my art and change the way I approach something, right?
Yep.
I do have to point, I'm so glad you brought up your Swamp Thing story, because I do also think it's fantastic that you won the same Eisner Award 2 years apart for short stories with Tom King.
Huh.
Yeah.
The Talk of the Saints came, I believe, 2 years after Good Boy. Did either of you have major lessons or memories of working on those short stories, which is a very different challenge?
Well, I actually like the short story if it's a good all-around script, because you can get in and you can work really hard on that story, and then it's done, and it's like a I kind of actually wish that the Swamp Thing that we did was a little longer. I had originally pitched it as like I wanted to do like a 4-part series, and DC said, no, let's just do a one shot. But I was just very thankful that they were going to give us that opportunity. But I enjoy doing that. I enjoy comics that are self-contained and something that you can just pick up, read it, and you don't have to read 50 other issues to figure out what's going on. It was the same thing with Three Jokers. We wanted it to be self-contained. It starts on page 1 and it ends on page 144 or whatever, how many pages it is. That's how it's supposed to be, and I enjoy that kind of storytelling.
Dave, how did you do you still have people bringing up Good Boy?
Yes, I still see it. For my part, I thought it was a great story, and I thought it was worth drawing. So I enjoyed it in that sense. But it was all about a dog. I love dogs. I've got 2. But they're hard to draw, especially. I just hadn't done it. I've been trying to work on that lately and work on animals. Still struggling, but yeah. So every shot of the dog, I was having to go and find reference. And it's one thing to find reference for how a character looks. It's another thing to find reference and then have to methodically copy it, which I really was doing. So it made it tough, but it was such a good story. It was worth it. But yeah, it was a tough job.
Well, we appreciate that you got it out there, because it is a delightful story and very seasonally appropriate, folks. This is the winter special and the Batman annual. Both of them in different ways speak to the season. But I am monopolizing y'all, and we have a lot more great questions. So thank you, chat, for keeping those coming. Art9 asks, David Finch, are you going to do something with Joe Weems again in the future, and what could it be?
Yeah, I certainly would not say no. Absolutely. And I haven't talked to Joe in a year, probably, maybe even more. Time flies. But he's a phenomenal inker. He always has been, and he still is. And I'm always happy to work with him. So yeah, I could definitely see. He's got. I love inkers that use a brush, like Danny Mickey, Scott Williams. And they use a range of tools. So I think of them as brush inkers. It's probably simplifying it. And then there are inkers that I think of as quill inkers. And again, they use a range. But Joe
Quill
Weems
inkers.
Quill? It's a crow quill. Huh. You know what I mean? Let me show you what I mean. It's one of these. And then you dip it in the ink like you got. So yeah, crow quill. And it's a hard tip. And they're very unforgiving to work with. But if you're good with them, they produce a great line. So yeah, Joe Weems is a great crow quill inker, and it gives him a look that you really don't see nowadays as much. I really like it.
I think I saw a great question coming in about routine. When starting to draw for the day, this is from the Art Jedi, do you just jump straight into it, or do you do warm-ups like drawing cubes and cylinders in 3D space?
Jason, do you? I
get up, I grab my breakfast, I come downstairs, and I just immediately just jump into whatever I was working on the day before. I don't really do warm-ups. I don't do cool downs or anything. Like if it's as soon as my wife called for supper, everything's down and I'm upstairs, and I don't really think about it for the rest of the day, for the rest of the night. But I have kind of a weird way of doing my work. Like when I'm doing a monthly book and I gotta get a page done every day, like the way I kind of work on the pages, it always seems to end up where I'm finishing the previous day's page at around noon, 1 o'clock, and then starting a new page at around noon or 1 o'clock, working on it till about 5:36, and then finishing it up the next day from 8 o'clock till 1 o'clock. And I kind of go like that. So I'm kind of able in the morning I do all the hard stuff from that page in the morning, and then I kind of that's when you have the most energy. And then when I start my next page, I sort of in the mid-afternoon, I kind of just do a couple of easy close-ups, stuff like that, just to kind of wind down. But with Three Jokers and with the stuff I'm doing now, there's no deadline. So like I'm sometimes spending like 2-3 days on a page. And so it just kind of that schedule kind of all falls apart. But
the rhythm, yeah.
But it shows in the work. The extra time, you can really see it in the pages.
Yeah, I think I just come to the point where I just want to be happy and content with the stuff I'm drawing, and I'm not like, I could do a monthly book if I wanted to. I've been offered everything under the sun, but I just don't want to do it anymore. I have a young family, and I'd rather do high quality art work and put out 1 or 2 really good books a year than to do 10 rushed jobs that I don't ever get to see my family. So that's kind of how my balance is now, I guess.
The sort of European model there. Dave, what is your daily routine? Do you warm up?
I don't. So really, it just means drawing poorly for a little while.
Yeah, that's true.
But I've got an eraser. I've got whiteout. So what I do try, because I'm getting older, and I do think I worry about when you do something for a long time, and I've seen artists kind of go through this. As you go along, the art starts to kind of suffer a little bit. It's like handwriting that, you do it more and more and more, and it gets harder and harder to read. And I don't want to let that happen. So I look at different artists and I sketch from their work and try different things. And I try, and I claim all the time, I do that for half an hour a day. I don't. I do that probably half an hour a day for like 3 days, and then I lose energy. I don't have time, and I move on. And it's like another month before I do it again. But I do try to do that.
Nice. Do we have some more questions from chat? Dennis asks for both. Ooh, great question. What is your all-time favorite Batman story?
Dark Victory for me.
Why Dark Victory?
Because I read it before Long Halloween. So I kind of read it out of order.
Same thing with me.
Otherwise, I would say Long Halloween, I'm sure. But that's the first one I read. So it's, special to me.
I read Long Halloween first, so I can vouch. They're both great, but
yeah,
that's kind of funny, yeah, because I read Dark Victory as well first. Sometimes I still get them mixed up in my mind, like which parts come from which book. But I'd probably say Long Halloween. I recently reread both of them, and I think I liked Long Halloween better. But I think the art in Dark Victory was better. So. I don't know, but those are both great, really great Batman stories.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like, Jay, as you revisited some of these major influences, which you were remixing in a sense for Three Jokers? Anything to really stand out on going back to them for this purpose?
It was actually a lot of fun to do that. Our book was heavily influenced by Killing Joke, so a lot of the way that the scenes are and the sets and the way I tried to lay out panels and tell the story was all kind of going back to Brian Bolland and the way that he was telling the story through the artwork and the way that he would draw different specifics in the settings and whatnot, backgrounds. And so I really went like that, went heavy into that. And I really was hoping that fans would pick up on that as they read it. But then there was other things too, like a lot of death in the family, some Long Halloween stuff. It's fun to go back and play with that. And I'm a big fan of history and especially comic book history. And sometimes I think it's good to just go back and look at how things were done
and try and bring that back into the mindset of the comic book reader. It's like listening to a classic rock band kind of do a new album. Yeah, it sounds like the classic stuff, but it's also got a new twist to it as well. And so, that's just, it was a lot of fun to do that.
Is there anything coming up that I know you can't necessarily tease things, but that you want people to know to look out for either Jason or Dave?
Well, I just noticed that Amy Dallen says Fabok and Finch autograph. Sorry, Fabok. I do it all the time. I still do it. How many years has it been? I can't help it. Fabok and Finch autographed Black Friday prints on sale at mainframecomiccon.com. So yeah, we've got that. And yeah, please check them out and, support the cause. We really appreciate all of your support and, some nice artwork.
For sure.
Couldn't have said that better myself. Thank you so much for being part of this Bat Friday panel. Do you have any final Batman-esque thoughts that you want to share with our audience, or secrets you want to spill before they take our cameras away?
Batman-esque thoughts. I want to hear you go first.
Oh no, don't put me on the spot. I don't know. Batman's really fun to draw. Like I said, I hopefully will do some more in the future. I'd love to see Dave get back on a Batman book or do a mini series or do something. I would love to see. Dave's one of my favorite Batman artists, and I pour over all the work that I still have is the Dark Knight stuff all here on my side table that I use for flipping through to get ideas and whatnot. So I'd love to see Dave back on some Batman, and yeah, it's always fun to visit that character, and hopefully both of us can do it in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to get the chance again. I just did another Batman cover with the Red Hood, which was a lot of fun. He's got a new costume with like a hood, actually, so. But yeah, I would love to be able to do a Batman, if not run, certainly a story again. And, hopefully that will work out. And yeah, when you were saying, Jay, that you did Batman, you think is your final statement on Batman, maybe I thought, no, you can't let it go that easy.
Well, I was just even thinking right now, I was like, Batman's probably the only character that you don't ever really get tired of. So,
yeah.
You might step away for a while, but then like if you were asked to do another Batman story and you really thought, yeah, this is going to be a good story, and I'm going to really enjoy drawing this, I think you would be just pumped up to jump back in. It doesn't take much with Batman to get you excited. You just you go open up a couple old Batman comics, watch Batman 89, and then you're ready to go again. So yep. He's probably one of the only characters like that, where you would just get fired up to draw him again.
Yeah.
All
Absolutely.
right. I like Kenny saying thanks a lot, you guys, and happy Thanksgiving, even though Canadian Thanksgiving was weeks ago. We are grateful that you could be here. Thank you so much for spending time with us. Please get those prints. Check out the rest of the evening, and thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much for having us. It was good. It was good to see you too, Jay. It's been
you
long.
too.
Well, it's only 30 minutes away, man. Good drive on by.
I know.
Say hi.
Yeah. You know what?
We just had a baby, so I was gonna go and visit Dave a couple weeks ago. We had talked about doing a little thing together, a little project.
We still need to do it.
But then, we had a baby came a couple weeks early, so
congratulations.
Yeah.
So maybe in 6 months.
Yeah.
That baby really wanted to be born in 2020.
Yeah, we'll bring over the baby. Meredith would love to.
Oh yeah, we'll never get it back.
Yeah.
Well, Amy, Jay, Dave, this was I'm so upset that this hour is over. It literally flew by. Everybody in the comment section, thank you so much for your questions. Thank you so much for your comments. This was phenomenal. We can't wait to have you both and all three of you back for the next Mainframe really soon in 2021. So thanks a lot for being here, guys. And Amy,
awesome.
Thank you so much for being to come back. All right, guys, we had a lot more Bat Friday stuff. I just love that name. I feel like we invented a holiday this year. This is wonderful. We got a lot more great stuff coming up right now. Head on over to mainframecomiccon.com. The Batman Catwoman panel is about to start with Clay Mann. and Tom King. So click on that over at mainframecomiccon.com, and we'll see you guys later. Thanks again, Dave, Jay, and Amy. Have a fantastic Thanksgiving weekend.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you.
You too.
Black Friday comic book deals are now available at mainframecomiccon.com. Like this David Finch exclusive variant starting at only $30. Limited edition prints, autographed and shipped to you from only $45. Mail-in signatures and CGC grading available for your personal comic book collection. And impossible to find comic book posters all signed by the top names at DC. This is a limited time offer, so head on over to mainframecomiccon.com and pick up yours today.